I can't even imagine what my life would be like if I've never found him. To be honest, I probably would have been dead. Hey guys! It was inevitable that I was going to have to share my testimony, and I finally got the clearance to share it. I want to let you guys know that this is a very heavy testimony, and I'm just going to be really vulnerable with you guys in hopes that, you know, it may speak to you and it could just show you that if God did it for me, I was treacherous, y'all. He could definitely do it for you. Please don't mind my voice. I wanted to film this last week, but I ended up getting a cold, so my voice is just coming back to normal. If it gets croaky, y'all know why. Let's talk about my upbringing. I am Filipino. I'm full Filipino. Parents born in the Philippines. I'm the first generation born here. There's me and my sister. We're 10 years apart. The roots of the Philippines is very Catholic, so I did grow up Catholic, but I wouldn't say I was very Catholic. My family, we went to church every Sunday, but we weren't exactly reading the Bible together. I didn't go to Sunday school, none of that. My parents are very hardworking immigrant parents, and they were super loving, very sweet. They really showed their love through acts of service. My parents invested a lot of money into my education, and they gave me everything I needed. There's a net in here. I tried to get it. I can't catch it, so I'm gonna just let it be. Nothing's gonna stop me from speaking my testimony today. I ended up going to private Catholic school from kindergarten to 8th grade, and then another private Catholic all-girls school from my freshman year to my senior year. I don't think it's a secret, and I think this is very common, but most Asian families really lack communication, especially when it comes to emotions. You don't get a lot of words of affirmation growing up, and there wasn't a lot of physical touch. It was mainly just acts of service, but I think as a child, you don't really see that. You really need that direct affection of like words of affirmation and touch and loving and hugging. But you know, many Asian families tend to lean towards emotional suppression to maintain peace. So if there was any conflict, it was kind of like tiptoe around it. We didn't really talk about it. Or if I felt some type of way, it was more just like, don't feel that way, it's okay. So there was also kind of like a lack of protection. This definitely didn't make my parents bad parents. They did what they could and they did what they knew. As a kid, I always felt this kind of like anger. I would be so mean and talk back to my parents, and I would hate myself for it. Like, I would always do it, and I was angry at myself for doing it. I kind of had this identity of, oh, Abby's just like that. She's just a little mean, like she's a little brat. When it comes to my emotions, it came out very angry, and I also would eat a lot as like a coping mechanism ever since I was like 2-3 years old. In preschool, I did get bullied, and there was even days where I would scream and beg my mom not to like leave me there, and they probably just thought I was like being dramatic and stuff, but it was because I was getting bullied. Of course, being so young, I didn't know what bullying was. I just knew I didn't want to be there, so I wouldn't be able to communicate with that. Even though I went to Catholic school, I never really believed in God. Jesus almost seemed like a fictional character to me. It's so sad. I would literally hate church. I would sit there and I would just fall asleep or, you know, mess around. I would never even pay attention to, I think it's called like the homily. It's like, how do I not know that? I went to Catholic school my whole life. But Catholic church is like very reserved. So I think as a kid, it's even boring to just sit there. And I just had no connection to church, to mass, to God. It was non-existent to me at this point. When you go to Catholic schools, you actually have religion as one of your classes. I didn't even really learn much. At the same time, it could have been me not paying attention, but I just remember like no one would really take anything seriously. When I was 7 or 8, I don't remember, I was actually exposed to porn, and it was at a friend's house. I'm not even joking when I say I remember the images in my head till this day. I was in shock. I had no idea. I was so young, you know, but also being in an Asian household, we don't learn about sex. Like, we barely even learn about affection. Whenever there was a sex scene, it was just close your eyes. After that point, I started to be super curious about porn. And that's when my porn addiction started. And I don't even remember what I typed in, but eventually I ended up finding porn. I would wait until my family was asleep. I was super secretive. I would try to access it on my laptop. It's crazy that as a kid, like, even though I didn't really know what it was, I still felt like it was wrong because I was trying to hide it. But yeah, that's how I learned about sex. It wasn't through my parents. It wasn't through a church. It wasn't through school. It wasn't even through my friends at school because I don't even know if they've been exposed at that point. Me watching porn at 7, 8 years old is what I learned what sex was and what it is and how it should look like. And not only that, that's literally how I learned affection and intimacy. I remember even having shame about it. Like, my parents caught me one time. I think at that point I was like 8 or 10. Somewhere around there, and I was so embarrassed. But even after they tried to block it off my laptop, I found ways around it. I was addicted, to say the least. As the years progressed, the types of porn I would watch would get weirder and weirder. It would get more intense, it would get more degrading. As I'm watching this as a young girl, I'm like, oh, this is what it's gonna be when I get married or when I have a boyfriend, which is crazy. And I truly believe that is one of the biggest things that kind of set me up for the relationships I ended up having. Probably around 1st to 3rd grade, I would always stay after school at a daycare. And that daycare was shared between all the kindergarteners all the way to the 8th graders. That they were like selling little lollipops like at the front. I remember going towards the back, towards the bathroom, and one of the 8th graders was like, do you want a lollipop? Me being so young, I'm like, yeah, girl, like I've been eyeing that. You know, she led me into the bathroom and she was like, you're gonna do this, touch yourself. I didn't know what I was doing. I did it and she rewarded me. That was the first time I got sexually assaulted at a daycare. From that, I was really curious about my own body, and like I would end up masturbating and watching porn, and it was just like this addiction. My identity from middle school to high school just became very outgoing, obnoxious, mean girl, do things for attention, never ever took anything serious. School, like, I was not having it. I hated it. And I remember even in middle school, I would always be super boy crazy. I wanted love so bad, so I would truly just fantasize about every single guy I thought was cute or had a crush on. I was, we're gonna get married and have kids. Would literally be an obsession. That was an idol for me for a long time. Summer going into high school, I got into my first relationship. That ended up being a 4-year relationship. And of course, just like every other crush I had, it truly became my life. This is the source where I was getting affirmed. I was getting that love that I wanted so bad. My high school boyfriend couldn't even give me the love I wanted because he wasn't going to be able to fill that Jesus-shaped hole in my heart. No one could. The first year was cute. It was, you know, puppy love, 13 years old, going into high school. Either in the 2nd or the 3rd year we were together, that's when we started to fornicate. Everything that I watch in porn and that I internalize would be displayed whenever I would have sex with my boyfriend. And my high school boyfriend was dealing with a lot of stuff at home, which translated into him verbally abusing me. Through that relationship, I ended up just falling into even a deeper depression and just not feeling any type of self-worth. I was also very insecure, very jealous. Mind you, since this was my first relationship, I had not really any reference point of what a healthy, communicative, is that how you say it? Type, like, relationship pretty much set the standard for the rest of my relationships. Being so depressed, and you know, food was one of my comforts. I actually gained a lot of weight. I would just binge eat, and that was also the start of my eating disorder, which is bulimia. A lot of that has to do with just me trying to control my life. Eating so much for comfort and then feeling guilty and feeling ugly and fat whenever I would eat, and throwing up, and it would just be a continuous cycle. Just so y'all have a reference point, right now I'm like 130 because I work out a lot. Like, I do a lot of muscle building, so it makes me heavier. But when I'm not working out, I'm naturally like 120. But in high school, I wasn't working out. It was just fat. Like, I was 160 pounds, which I'm 5'3". That's not really a normal weight. In high school, I was super rebellious. I remember we would have to walk to a cathedral, but I would literally just be like, let's go get McDonald's instead. I would not want to go to mass. I was just avoiding God at all costs. I thought it was a waste of time. As I started to grow older, my rebellion started to get stronger. I started smoking weed. I'm from the Bay, so you already know when you live in the Bay or when you grow up in the Bay, you start smoking weed at like a very young age. I started drinking more consistently in high school and just partying, and yeah, I just wanted to be cool. I just wanted to have fun. Living the life I was living, I didn't get into my dream college. That even reinstated this mentality I had of myself of I'm dumb and I'm not worthy and I'm just not a smart girl. And I would never show how hurt I was by that rejection, but I think I coped with it just by even stepping into that identity more. I did end up going to a public college in San Francisco, which, you know, my parents so graciously paid for me to even stay on campus. I just didn't really care still. I still wanted to party. I still wanted to smoke and drink and basically did what I was doing in high school, but times 10. I would never go to class. I would literally just stay in my dorm. I would smoke. I would take BART, go to like parties all around the Bay. Just always chasing fun. Always, always, always just like chasing happiness. My high school boyfriend did end up cheating on me. So we did break up, I think, in the first semester of college. After that happened, I was like, bet. It's my time to shine. Let's download Tinder. Let's get on these dating apps and let's see what the world has to offer, or the Bay, which is when I started going on dating apps. I literally remember just starting to have a lot of sex. I was trying to find my self-worth again after getting verbally abused in my last relationship, not getting words of affirmation, and then my boyfriend cheating on me. I was looking for validation through these dating apps and having sex because that's how I knew how to date or show affection. Then I started talking to this guy online. He was a man to me because he was 5 years older than me. Now that I'm that age, I'm like, there are no men my age. But I remember when we met, I felt so like assured and confident because he would just talk my head up. He would say how much potential he saw in me. I just felt assured, and you know what? I am of value. I truly thought what he was saying was making me of value. The relationship was very sexual from the beginning. I was already this guy. I have the biggest crush on him. The second time we hung out, he brought up how we could be a team and we could partner together and make money. All I had to do was go on dates. I remember it being explained very briefly. You would hang out with a guy, but you know, it's up to you if you sleep with them or not. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna do it. The manipulation of words to like, it was my choice. And it was my choice to an extent. At the same time, let's not disregard the manipulation that goes into pimping. Growing up in the Bay Area, y'all know like pimping is ingrained in the culture. A lot of people understand pimp culture and understand how pimps talk, but look, I came from a private school. I didn't know. I totally fell for it. The manipulation, and if we're talking spiritually, just like the soul tie that was created when we had sex, and just that spirit of lust that was used to really dig me into a deep dark hole. When the day came, it was pretty obvious that I was gonna have to sleep with this person. He got a call. He was like, all right, it's time to go. We drive to the hotel. Never forget walking down the hall being kind of scared, like my heart was racing, and I go in. It's like this middle-aged man dressed in business clothes. Being in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of techies who come here for work. Never forget the look on this dude's face. We weren't even seeing each other. I think through me watching porn and being in very sexual relationships, I already knew how to like turn it off, turn the emotions off, and just go numb. Whenever I would have sex, it was like I was watching from a third person perspective, like I was watching a porno. With that client, it was no different at that point. It was so demonic. Doing the most intimate thing, coming into covenant with someone, and y'all don't even know each other's names. Y'all don't even like look at each other. The lifestyle I've been living led up to this, and at this point, I was already numb to sex. Being so young and naive, so desperate for love, it didn't seem like a bad idea to pair with someone and get money together. In that, I would have a guy who loved me. That's what I thought at the time. I genuinely thought this guy was protecting me. But it's funny, I thought that he was protecting me even though he was leading me to do some of the most dangerous stuff. So if y'all didn't know, prostitution, escorting, sugar daddy, those are essentially all the same stuff in different fonts. When I left, it just felt so good to have the money because I was excited to bring it to my pimp and just feel good and make him happy. You know, I was worth something, so he would stay with me. I did this in 2017. I believe I was like 18 to 19. I completely stopped going to school. I felt so guilty, especially with my family. They invested so much in me. Unfortunately, I just didn't care. I basically stopped communicating with my family so I could live this secret lifestyle. I stopped really being around my friends. The mindset that you get when you're making fast money, you feel like you have a cheat code to life. You feel like that you know stuff that people don't and you're ahead because you're making so much money at a young age. Y'all, that is such a lie from the enemy. That fast money lifestyle, it has so many people in shackles. I'm here to tell you, Jesus has more for you. As I was working as a prostitute, there was weapons pulled out on me. There was times where I almost got kidnapped in a car. There was times where I got raped, like a lot. Honestly, that happened probably more times than I can count. And it was just so sad because even though this was damaging me so much and I would have these moments of fear, I was still so addicted to the money and the love that I was getting from it. I was just tunnel vision on the money. I was really gone. Abby was out of there. My mind was just full on 304. And looked down upon people who worked a 9 to 5 because like I could never live that square life. That's literally the mindset I had. And it's crazy that when I read the Bible, and I'm reading Proverbs right now, and it says so much about just making fast money. No, I had to pull out the word. Y'all, I cannot make this up. It says right here, Proverbs 13 verse 11, wealth from get rich quick schemes quickly disappears. Wealth from hard work grows over time. A hard worker has plenty of food, but a person who chases fantasies has no sense. And that's exactly what that fast money mindset gives you, a fantasy, this specific lifestyle, but it actually ends up in death. You're chasing money and that's it. God has more for you. If you haven't opened your Bible, I'm telling you, whatever you're living and whatever you need help with, the answer's in here. I loved fast money. I love the lifestyle. I love the designer. Whatever I was getting, it was just shiny. It was just attractive. And that's really what the enemy does. You really think the enemy is going to trap you with things that you don't want? No. The enemy makes things look attractive, but at the end, once you indulge in those things, it really ends to death. I'm not even going to go into detail with like a lot of the stuff that I endured during that season, but you know, after a few months, the dude ended up going to jail for something else. And I was in shock. I felt like, what am I going to do now? My whole life was built around this relationship, lifestyle, and this mindset. Getting money at that point was my whole personality. It was so cringe, not even gonna lie. But now looking back in the rearview mirror, God really protected me. That was his protection. He knew how attached I was to this guy, and he literally forced a separation between us for the sake of probably both of us. So many times where I should have been dead, that God literally protected me. No matter how much you deny him, he just loves you so much, and he showed me he loved me so much when he continued to pursue me. He didn't have to protect me, honestly. He could have left me dead. After that dude went to jail, that was the beginning of this new season. This guy's in jail. If y'all ever dated someone in jail, which I hope you haven't and I hope you aren't right now, I really liked him still. I thought I loved him. I was in lust with him. Let's be real. I continued to put money on his books and would go visit in jail, and I would dress up, and it was ghetto. It came to a point where I didn't want to continue prostituting, and I would basically just show other girls how to do it so I didn't have to do it. Just crazy looking back now, because the way that I'm able to connect and reach girls and talk to them, really get them to open up to me, was actually a gift from God. But I was allowing the devil to pervert my God-given gift. I was just like using it to serve Satan instead of to build the kingdom. I worked at MAG, I got my aesthetics license, and it's crazy because I took a long break from prostitution and sex work, but eventually I was just so used to that fast money that I did not want to work a regular job. Whenever I would be at my regular job, in my head, it was just I could work and escort for an hour or two and make the money I was making in 2 weeks in one day. I eventually quit, and then I started to get fast money again on my own this time. And this time it was different because it was all for me. I was getting every profit, every dollar. I just was addicted to that. It was what I knew. So I started to prostitute full time in 2019. There was one client that like I really trusted. He ended up introducing me to ecstasy. This was in the beginning of 2020. I was making a crazy amount of money. I was like doing drugs, and this was during COVID, so I was just living, I was just partying and drinking pretty much every day. I did that for a while, and then in July of 2020, I ended up moving to LA. To be real, I just wanted to get away from everyone I knew so I could just make my money in peace, including my family, so I could make this money guilt-free. I moved to downtown LA. I get this super luxury apartment. I continue to do sex work over there. I have my aesthetics license, so I did end up working at a medical spa over there for a bit. I was really proud of my job, but you know, I was partying like crazy still and got addicted to Adderall, Coke. There was a point where I would go to the medical spa and literally like do Coke just to work and do facials. I would party all night and go straight to work, and I would need to keep going, so I would just consume drugs to keep me up. I would do ecstasy, Molly at least once a week or every other week. Adderall and Coke suppress your appetite. I even used it to make me skinnier. I really looked malnourished, and I was just so frail and skinny. My usual weight at that time was 123, 120, and then I got down to like 108 pounds. I was doing it so much that I couldn't stop shaking one day, and I was like, I need to slow it down. I was definitely living that LA lifestyle. The culture in LA, when you move there and you get around all the people who move in to make money, to be famous, it totally warps your sense of reality. I was spending so much money every day. I would go out to eat. It would be like $100 minimum. You know what I mean? That was like kind of normal. Shopping and doing all these nice things in my super luxury apartment. I was living this lifestyle that I was able to keep up because I was a sex worker. Everything was like glitz and glam and everyone flexing on each other, and it's just honestly so cringe. I was cringe like looking back at it. All right, a lot of these girls be prostitutes. That really is like a norm in LA. A lot of people are doing some sort of sex work, whether it's OnlyFans, prostitution, escorting, sugar daddy. I was finding myself do a lot of drugs with my clients too. In the first week of January in 2021, I was working in Orange County at a hotel. I ended up doing an out call. In call is when they come to you wherever you are in your hotel, and out call is when you go to them. So I get a client on the phone, say they want an out call. I go to the client's house, and he wasn't talking a lot. I also kind of had my guard down because he was Filipino like me. And I remember we went into his room. When you do this work, you ask for the money in the beginning. So I was asking him, and he was being really weird. When I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. I turned around and saw him locking the door, and then he proceeded to rape me. I froze. I was scared because I was in this person's house. I didn't know him. I didn't know what he had, if he had any weapons. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to unlock this door. What if he hurt me if I wasn't able to unlock the door, trying to run out of there? I texted my girl because she has my location. I'm like, hey, you need to call the cops to my location right now. And he ends up grabbing my phone right after I text that and throws it so I don't have access to it. Then after, you know, I leave. I'm outside the apartment. I'm crying. The cops finally come. I remember one of the cops being like, this isn't the first time we're here for this. Because they didn't have a warrant to go inside the house, they just couldn't get any evidence or anything. So I'm just gonna tell you, a year later, nothing happened with that, which kind of sucked, but I was going through so many other things that it barely affected me. After that night, it really changed things for me. I remember driving home from the hospital, and it's morning, I remember I didn't want to do this anymore. My apartment was so expensive and this lifestyle I had, so I almost couldn't stop. I continued this lifestyle, but only with select people. So I'm partying in LA, and then I start talking to this guy in April 2021. He's super charming, good looking, and love bombing. At this point, I was so vulnerable, and I opened up to him, told him what had happened to me in the beginning of the year with, I just remember him saying, oh, he never wants that to happen to me again, and he'll protect me and he'll provide for me if that means I just never do that type of work again. And to me, I felt safe, I felt relieved, I felt protected, I felt loved, I felt assured. So that relationship started off very, very sexual, like most of my relationships. And then from the beginning, it was just very degrading. Me and this person, we would just always be chasing fun, going on trips, going to parties, drinking. With that relationship, I stopped with the sex work, and then I ended up getting a regular job, which was pretty good at the time. And this guy that I was with, he was just super jealous, but it almost assured me, like, look how much he cares for me. He's so jealous. Be for real. I couldn't believe someone cared about me that much. The fights of the jealousy and anything else just kept getting worse and worse and worse. At this point, he was basically living with me, even though he had his own place, but we would usually be sleeping in the same bed every night. And there was this one night, he didn't come home. It was 3 a.m. and I was so worried. All of a sudden, I hear super loud pounding on my door. I was like, what is that? So I look in the peephole and it was him. I didn't think he would be angry or anything, so I opened the door. The minute I opened the door, he dragged me all around the house, was punching holes in my wall, pulling me, dragging me by my limbs, pushing my face into the floor, into the wall. He was drunk, so he ended up falling asleep. He forced me to sleep next to him. I was in shock. I was just laying next to him and I just couldn't sleep. And I remember in my room looking up and seeing this cross. So when I first moved in, my parents hang this cross on my wall in my bedroom, and I remember being like, oh my gosh, but it's crazy that in that moment I look up, I see this cross, and I don't know what to do, and I just started to pray. And as a Catholic, I only knew like Hail Marys and Our Fathers, so I remember praying the Our Father over and over and over again. It was put on my heart to just like go to church. And now I know, looking back, like that was truly the Holy Spirit telling me to just go to church. At this point, it was already Sunday because it was early morning, and I was like, you know what? Like, let me actually just go to a Christian church so that I could bring him and maybe it'll help him stop abusing me. This is basically what I was thinking. He was a pastor's kid. He grew up Christian, and that was the first time I actually understanding what Christianity is. I was in downtown LA, I look up Christian churches nearby. I find this church, it's called Tapestry LA. I'm pretty sure it's like a Korean Christian church. I was getting ready for church at 8 a.m. and he was like, where are you going? And I was like, I'm going to church, you should come with me. And he ended up coming. And so in my head, I'm on my way to church thinking, I hope this is gonna help him be nicer to me and treat me nicely. I go to church and immediate tears during worship. The sermon started and it literally was about what love should look like and what God's love is.
It is patient. It is kind.
How I'm in this really bad relationship, wanting love, and then God leads me to a random church, and out of all sermons, they talk about what love should look like. So after that, a seed was definitely planted. We make up. Typical abusive relationship. You guys peak at this like super crazy fight. There's a makeup period and you continue this cycle. Just getting so bad, but I was like dependent on him because in my head, this was the guy who saved me from prostitution. He was super narcissistic, obviously. There was always gaslighting. Every fight was my fault because I was the problem. And at a point, I truly believed like, oh my gosh, this is my fault because of the manipulation, because of the gaslighting. I was just broken down in that relationship. We ended up moving together into Glendale. It even got to a point where he was like teaching me the Bible, but then we were fornicating and he was abusing me. I was learning about God somewhat, but my heart wasn't really there. I even remember I wrote a letter to God asking him, why is this happening? If he could fix my relationship. I was almost frustrated. God, I'm trying to get to know you. Why aren't you fixing my relationship? On December 30th, we got in a fight and I couldn't sleep that night. He had like physically abused me and I was just up, didn't know what to do. And again, turned to God. I don't even remember what I was looking up to find this, but God gave me Psalms chapter 9, verse 9 to 10. It says, "The Lord is a shelter for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble. Those who know your name trust in you. For you, O Lord, do not abandon those who search for you." And that just spoke to me that night. And I remember I even made it my screensaver. New Year's Eve, going into 22, comes around. We went to my friend's house. We got really, really drunk. I blacked out that night. I just remember he drove us home and woke up around 6 a.m. and found myself alone. I was a whole different person, but I started going crazy because it's like I knew he was cheating on me, blowing up his phone. I just wanted him to come home. So addicted to this relationship and so entangled in the abuse, I just wanted someone there, even if that person wasn't treating me well. He got home immediately, of course, started beating me. The first time was throwing things at me, like our Christmas tree, the PS5 I got him, like miscellaneous items around the house. The second time he beat me that morning, he was making me clean the house while he was beating me. I tried to escape twice and kept trying to run down the hall and even screamed, but kept getting dragged back into the house. And that was actually the worst part. He took the broom that I was cleaning with. It was like a metal broom and he hit me with that until it broke into 3 pieces. So that's why you'll see lines on my body. I remember during that part of it, I was just praying to God, just keep me alive. I just remember like protecting my head and just praying out, even out loud, just like, God, like, please just keep me alive. And the third time he beat me really bad was he was making me paint the walls from any of the marks that we made. There was also like a hole in the wall. And he was just yelling at me, fix it now, fix it now. I remember crying like, I don't have the stuff to fix it. And then it's crazy because in that moment, the Holy Spirit literally gave me clarity and directed me to just ask him for the keys and tell him you need to go get supplies to fix the hole. And I was like scared to say it because why would he give me the keys back to escape? You know, he just dragged me back in the house, but I literally just did it because at this point I had nothing to lose. Some way, somehow, it had to be God. He literally gave me the key. He was like, be back in 5 minutes, which goes to show how crazy he was. Took the key, walked downstairs, got my car, never looked back. I ended up calling my friend. Where are you? Like, I need to come over. So I went to my friend's house and she starts taking pictures of my body, you know, just for evidence. I was in complete shock and I was just so embarrassed to tell my family. I've lived this crazy life. And for the first time ever, it was almost like they were proud of me for having an actual job in LA, being in a relationship. Like, it seemed like I was getting my life together. So I was just so embarrassed to show that it fell apart and that I was just a failure again. I called my sister, but was too embarrassed to call my parents. So my sister ended up talking to them for me, and my friend talked to them for me. When you are in an abusive relationship, you love the person abusing you. I did not want to turn him in. I am so grateful that my friends just like decided to do that for me, because I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't have wanted to do that. I ended up going to the hospital and I'll never forget the look on the doctor's face in the emergency room. He was so grieved and angered by just the state of my body. Even before he came, I remember waiting for the doctor and just laying in the bed in this really cold room in a hospital gown, and I looked down at my body and my limbs, and I'm not even joking, like, it looked like a corpse. I was just breaking down, just crying. The next day, my amazing family like flew in right away. Honestly, I just felt so bad for just putting them through another thing I met up with my family, I saw them, and I just felt so weak, so embarrassed, and so grateful that I had a family to just be there for me in a heartbeat. Those next few days after I escaped, I just remember not knowing what's going on. I was just deciding to leave my job there, leave my house, my belongings, my friends over there. It was just such a moment of uncertainty and I did not know what to do. I just wanted to listen to worship music, just wanted to listen to sermons. I remember this overwhelming feeling I felt in the car, just so grateful that God has protected me. I'm alive. He got me out of that situation. I decided to just go back home with my family, which is the best thing I could have ever done. And I was just feeling so blessed that I have like a support system that, you know, I could just go back with my parents and they welcomed me back home with open arms. When I got back home, I was so depressed. I felt like I took 10,000 steps backwards in life. It got to the point where I wouldn't leave my room. I would just be in the dark all the time. Couldn't even shower. There would be like empty water bottles on my bed. I was down bad. I just was so lost. I was in so much debt. I tried to work multiple jobs, but I was so depressed that I couldn't even sit at a job. And I was also starting to process everything that I've been through, the sex work, everything. This is the first time in years where actually I sat down and I was forced to just kind of rest. I continued to watch some sermons. I started to go to therapy, but I still didn't take Jesus as my Lord. I went back to trying to find love and trying to find distraction and partying and drinking and all that again. And I even dabbled in sex work again. I just wanted something that felt familiar to me. That was the only thing I knew, and it was dangerous and comfortable at the same time. I also started antidepressants. Honestly, it just didn't feel like myself. I was never happy. I was just numb and it was not enjoyable. In May 2022, I met this guy on a dating app. Of course, God would use the dating app to bring me to church. He was telling me how he goes to church and I was telling him how I want to learn more about the Bible. His mom ends up discipling me and like teaching me about the Bible. I've never experienced someone being so willing to just teach me and spend time with me with nothing in return. My whole lifestyle was transactional. So like to see and feel someone just give without getting, it was different to me. And it was good at the same time. It wasn't ready to let go of my life. I continued to just live sinfully and hold off on getting to know God. One day, my best friend at the time told me that she wanted to go to church. And I was like, that sounds good. So we end up going to this church. I believe it was August or September of 2022. We respond to the altar call. I remember the Holy Spirit just hitting me. I continued to attend that church and I ran into my old cheer coach from high school. She saw me and it's crazy because the last time I had talked to her, she saw online that I was getting into sex work and it was very obvious and she tried to tell me something and I literally was like, don't want to hear it, blocked. It's crazy that 5 years later I end up seeing her at church. And being in a church community really helped my walk. Not even gonna lie, there was a season where I was doing sex work here and there and going to church and partying. And then one day, I don't know what hit me, but my regulars kept hitting me up and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I told my regulars, hey, we can't ever meet again. We can't talk anymore. I'm giving my life to Jesus. That was that. I ended up getting baptized June 11th of 2023.
Be baptized. I'm honestly just so tired of letting the shame of my past prevent me from having a relationship with Jesus.
I'm definitely not who I was at all beginning of last year. Shoot, I'm not even the same person I was like 2 months ago. Every day, God continues to refine me and just give me a more pure, sweeter, nicer, loving heart and a heart for Him. Before I got baptized, I was really starting to read the Bible and that shifted a lot for me. I was always so intimidated to open the Bible, but when I opened it, it was like It was tea. I was reading it, my jaw was dropping. I feel like people think that Bible is boring, especially if you grew up in a more traditional church or religion. But y'all, that book is really, really crazy and interesting, and it's living. Like it reads you. It's the only book that will read you back. As I started to indulge in the Bible more and more and more, I fell in love with God, just his character. And as I was reading this, not only was I getting to know God, but I was getting to know who I truly am and what I was really made for. Everything was starting to make sense. I craved love so hard because we were created to be intimate with him. We were created to be dependent on him, but I was being dependent on everything else to fulfill me. It was only God that really was able to complete me. No amount of partying, no amount of money was ever, ever, ever going to satisfy me. I can't even imagine what my life would be like if I've never found him. To be honest, I probably would have been dead. Sometimes it takes getting to the trenches and getting to the lowest point to find him, but you don't have to do that. You could find him today. I remember after I got baptized just feeling like a kid again. I felt like the real me. We were all created to depend on him. We misplace that dependence on other things. Partying, drinking, relationships, money, career, success, that's all just counterfeit. We really need intimacy with God to feel whole. Because of God's love and forgiveness towards me, I've been able to forgive everyone who's hurt me. Like I said, if he could do it for me, he could do it for you. And I hope my testimony can at least show you that God loves you and he will continue to pursue you. And I truly believe that he's pursuing you through this video, so seek him. This is my testimony, and this could be your testimony. Once you were dead because of your disobedience and your many sins, you used to live in sin just like the rest of the world, obeying the devil, the commander of the powers in the unseen world. He is a spirit at work in the hearts of those who refuse to obey God. All of us used to live that way, following the passionate desires and inclinations of our sinful nature. By our very nature, we were subject to God's anger just like everyone else. But God is so rich in mercy, and he loved us so much that even though we were dead because of our sins, he gave us life when he raised Christ from the dead. It is only by God's grace that you have been saved, for he raised us from the dead along with Christ and seated us with him in the heavenly realms because we are united with Christ Jesus. I'm telling you, get on the winning team, y'all. Follow Jesus because he defeated everything that you are going through right now. This is the best decision I've ever made in my life, and I truly just want to see Jesus move through all of your lives. Love you guys.